Welcome to all our loyal friends who have been following these webinars. From the very first one, I know many people are joining us today and they are enjoying this series of webinars, and I hope they will inspire you to come and visit FAI Properties and to become members. And if you are not already members, and to donate to FAI. My name is Alessandra Varisco. I'm International Fundraising and Development Manager at FAI, the National Trust for Italy, the organization in Italy which protects, preserves, and enhances our incredible heritage, thanks to members and donors in Italy, of course, but also many people in the, in every country in the world. And we're very proud that this is a growing community and that these webinars give us the opportunity to keep close and despite, unfortunately, the impossibility to travel. As it is our custom, I would like to welcome our first guest, and I have the honor today of introducing Giacomo Balsamo, FAI UK trustee. Hello, Giacomo, are you there? Giacomo is joining us from London. Hello, Giacomo, thank you. Giacomo joins us from London. As I said, he works as an international director of post-war and contemporary art department at Bonhams, the auction house. So would you like to tell us a little bit why you are you became a FAI UK trustee and you support our mission?
Of course, I'm very proud to be a FAI UK trustee. I've been appointed a couple of years ago, and it has been a fantastic journey. I think, preserving and help FAI Italy is an honor, but also is a duty, because, supporting and helping, monuments as well as environment in Italy, it's a duty. Today, we are during the pandemic, but this pandemic will finish. And when this pandemic will finish, we are going to be able to travel again, to meet and to travel again. And of course, we will be visiting fantastic monument and FAI sites in Italy, which are stunning. And for me, from Villa Balbianello on the Lake of Como, to another one which is extremely dear to my heart, which is the Abbazia of San Fruttuoso next to Genoa, and to the fantastic garden, for example, of Villa Gregoriana in Tivoli next to Rome, with this fantastic waterfall.
We have all seen them. We have all seen them in our webinar, so our attendees know them.
Fantastic sites, and it's a privilege to help FAI Italy. And also, I have to say that for me, it's something that is also quite sentimental, because as Alessandra knows, my grandmother was involved in the FAI Italy quite earlier on, and she was quite a kind of early supporter in the 90s. And it's something that I'm very flattered to continue this kind of family tradition. And also, I found extremely interesting, Alessandra, actually didn't told you, the QR code, which I think are a stunning way to really, to fundraise. It's easy, we all have an iPhone, or an iPad. It's quite easy to do this, which means I'm sure, I don't know if you have them close, but I'm sure you're going to show them to us a bit later on, because, we need your donation. FAI Property are closed at the moment, which is, in Italy, which is something that is sad, but they will be soon open. And I'm sure that we really meet there again. And also, it is a duty for the generation to come to really preserve this fantastic heritage that Italy has. And I'm very proud to be part of it.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Giacomo. That's all very true. In fact, these are difficult times for all cultural organizations, for FAI as well, and we need your help. From all of us, lovers of Italian heritage all over the world, because it belongs really to everybody, not only to Italians. So do have your smartphones handy at the end of our webinar to help us with the donation. So thank you very much, Giacomo. We'll stay tuned, stay with us, and enjoy our visits today. Thank you.
And thank you, and good evening to everyone.
Bye. Bye. Okay, so here we are. Today we will visit 3 castles. They are all in northern Italy. They are among the first donations to FAI. So we have we have had the chance to carry out many restoration works in them and much research also in these 3 properties. But let me first introduce our speakers of today. We have 2 speakers. Francesca Fossati, here she is. Francesca is an architect specialized in monument restoration, who has worked on many restoration projects at FAI for over 20 more years?
More than 20 years.
And
yes.
she has worked on the restoration of these 3 castles and many villas.
Hi, Alessandra. I'm very pleased to be with you today.
Thank you, thank you. And then we'll have also Sara Menato, who's an art historian and a researcher. Hello, Sara. She works in our interpretation office and she works very closely with Daniela Bruno, whom you have met already. And her job is to study our properties and prepare all the materials that will be used by the properties to tell their stories to visitors.
Yes, hello everyone. I'm very pleased to be here and thanks for inviting me actually.
Well, thank you for joining us. We also have, we will have a special guest, but that will be at the end of our webinar and I will introduce her later. So we start our tour from the very north, the Castello di Avio, a fortress complex conceived for strategic control of the valley of the river Adige in the region of Trentino. In fact, if you travel from Verona to the north towards the mountains, you can see it from the highway in its dominating position up to the right. So let's see a short video to have an idea of what we are talking about. So the castle was donated by Emanuela Pindemonte Rezzonico in 1977 at the very beginning of our history. FAI had been founded about 2 years earlier only. And Emanuela Pindemonte Rezzonico was the granddaughter of Arturo Toscanini, the famous Italian conductor from Parma, her mother being Toscanini's daughter, Wally Toscanini. It had belonged almost without interruption to the noble Castelbarco family, which during the Middle Ages transformed the fortress into a small feudal court, frequently frequented by important personalities, artists, and intellectuals. She was a friend of Giulia Maria Crespi, the founder of FAI, and donated her castle to a newborn FAI so that it could be open to the public for everyone to enjoy and love. And as it is always the case, because the restoration costs were a little bit high for the family. So the castle was the first property the FAI opened to the public. Restoration works went really fast and it was opened just 2 years after the donation. As you see in this picture that will come up, the castle was in a state almost of total abandonment and really needed some urgent intervention. As you see, it's a real fortress with an imposing castle keep up on a hill with a sequence of terraces supported by stone walls, embellished by rows of vines and slender cypresses. Within this property, you may also find a lush garden, an orchard that gives vegetables and fruits that you can eat at the locanda, which is in the exquisite restaurant within the castle. And it has a vineyard within and outside its walls, which produces a very good wine that is sold in the bookshop. So to start, I would like to ask Sara to give us a sort of introduction to these visits, of today's visits to the three properties. And I would like to ask her to help us by giving some tools, let's say a special lens to see and understand why and when these castles were frescoed.
Yes, castles are very specific types of buildings which date back to medieval times. Usually they were placed in positions. Architectures can vary, but there are some basic features that recur. FAI has three important castles among its properties. Two of them, as we will see, were radically altered during the centuries, but this one is still very military function. So let's have a look at the Avio Castle to understand how the military system worked. You can see the keep, the tower, which is the fortified tower, actually. It's the most ancient of the complex, and it was built during the 12th century. The tower wasn't isolated, but was connected with a sophisticated defensive system all around the fortress. There were walls, creating a sort of crown, if you want. The fortification walls were very well secured by 5 gates, and thanks to this system, the walls were never forced, and the castle actually never conquered. We can say that we have a picture of the castle during the 14th century. It will come up because actually the castle was portrayed in a very interesting fresco. Then going back to the keep, yes, this is the fresco. The keep is a construction originally built for defensive purposes, as we said, but the function changed over the years. As Alessandra rightly pointed out, from a defensive tower during the 14th century, it became the residence of the Castelbarco family. And that's why in the 5th floor of the tower house, there is the lover's room. The lover's room is called like that because of the secular subject of the frescoes. You have to imagine this space completely covered by the frescoes, the vaulted ceiling as well.
I have a question. How do you date these frescoes? Do you have technical ways, or does the fresco tell you what dates they were?
Yes. Yes, definitely. We can date the frescoes studying their style, of course, because they show a clear influence of Giotto. But there is also another way, because dresses show a very peculiar fashion for the sleeve, a shape that we encounter in a very precise moment during the late 30s of the 14th century. About the subject, it's a love story between a lady and a young knight. The painter represents the tragic aspects of love. As you saw, he is first hit by the arrow of love. Instead, she, the lady, able to escape it a little bit in this scene. And then there is the very tender kissing scene. Yes, this one. At the same time, we also understand that it's a tragic love story because they must separate. In fact, he is on the horse, so he is leaving.
Well, thank you, Sara. There is one particular story about this castle, and it's about the roof. When the castle was donated to FAI, the Baronian palace had no roof, as you see in this picture. Why? Because there was a very strange law in Italy, according to which owners did not pay taxes on the estate if there was no roof. So they took the roof off. And so the roof, of course, was restored by FAI once we acquired it at the end of the 70s with, as it is always the case, with local techniques and materials, of course. Well, let's move on to, let's continue with another imposing castle that FAI takes care of. It's the Castello di Masino, Castello e Parco di Masino, the sumptuous residence of Valperga, descendants of Arduin of Ivrea, the first king of Italy. And this castle is exceptional for FAI, I would say, for several reasons. First of all, it is immersed in an outstanding landscape. It is mainly intact in front of the Canavese plain, below, which is below the sea level, and the evocative Moranic barrier of the Serra di Ivrea, but mainly because it encapsulates 1,000 years of history, being one of the few castles which still has its original paintings, its furnishings, and textiles. And because it was so exceptional, FAI acquired it in 1988 thanks to funds from corporate donors. It is rarely the case. We acquire only by donation or bequest, but this was so exceptional, we had to acquire it and save it. Let's watch a short video about Masino as well. So for more than 1,000 years, since 1070, Masino Castle was owned by the illustrious Valperga family that over the centuries converted the castle into an aristocratic residence and then into an elegant holiday home. This glorious past is recounted by the halls adorned with frescoes and ostentatious furnishings that you see in this picture, and by the bedrooms used by the Queen and visiting ambassadors, and also a priceless library which hosts more than 25,000 antique books. As you saw outside the castle, there are monumental romantic grounds featuring one of the largest mazes in Italy, a majestic tree-lined boulevard, large clearings, picturesque corners that in the spring are inundated by beautiful blossoms. A trip to Masino is an ever-changing experience. Masino is also perfect for kids who will have great fun on their treasure hunts or visiting the Carriage Museum and the Tower of Winds and the Elf Garden and other spaces. One of the most recent An important restoration project was the restoration of the room of the 3 windows, restored thanks to the generosity of FAI UK members, whom we thank. Sarah, would you like to tell us about this room?
Yes, this room was an antechamber for entertaining guests. About the decoration, as you can see, it is freely inspired by the cameos and paintings of the classical antiquity. We are in neoclassical time, and this decoration is totally in line with the rediscovery of Greek and Roman models, which were very fashionable in European castles and residences, particularly those in Britain, I would say. Frescoes here were carried out by Gaetano Vigna, who was a local painter. The ceiling features 6 episodes taken from Ovid's Metamorphoses. Among them, we have Venus and Adonis, for example, Hercules and the Queen Omphale, and there's Apollo and Daphne, of course. As we said, we are in neoclassical period. There is such a deep love for antiquities. Griffins, sphinxes, peacock feathers, pearl shells, all these decoration evokes the frescoes in Ercolano and Pompeii, and that's very fascinating.
And what about the Salone degli Dei, the Hall of Gods?
Yes, the name of the room is associated, it's the Hall of Gods. It's clearly associated with the decoration. The decoration in the walls, we have the gods of the Olympus depicted within faux architecture. The wall frescoes belong to the 18th century and are inspired by ancient celebrated sculptures such as the Apollo del Belvedere, which was rediscovered exactly in that period. The ceiling decoration features small squares and they simulate some sort of windows. Inside them, there are painted grotesques, flowers, birds, cherubs, bronze busts, and landscapes.
Thank you, Sarah. I have a question for Francesca now. After many structural restoration projects that you have worked on, Francesca, there is an artistic one that is so fascinating on which you're working at the moment, the Savoy Hall. Would you like to tell us about it and show us some pictures?
Yes, Alessandra. The Savoy Hall is one of the most important rooms in the castle, in the most ancient part, in that part that we call keep. The hall was like this. On the walls, there was a grey paint and all these paintings, 97 portraits of a Savoy family. And we had always seen the room in this way.
And then what happened?
And in January of last year, a large painting was launched to an exhibition. So we had the opportunity to do a first large essay on the wall, removing the 19th century plaster and discovering a fresco painting underneath, a landscape depicted with faux architecture, a trompe-l'oeil, like we say. And so encouraged by these good results, we went on to investigate on the other walls as well. And we discovered other frescoes in good condition, as you see, and of excellent quality. And the project is a big one. We are working together with art historians who deepened the researches and studied the paintings. And with the restorers who are making a lot of analysis. We found out that the frescoes were done in 1680, as it's written in the fresco on the eastern wall. And later, at the beginning of the 19th century, the frescoes were covered. We don't know why, we discover, and the portraits were hung. We had to postpone the starting of the works many times because of the pandemic and of subsequent financial problems. But finally, the 1st of September, we have started the restoration, and every day from that day, we have a great discovery. Here you see the works on the eastern wall, and this is the eastern wall after the restoration, after the first phase of restoration. The restorers here are doing a very delicate and patient work, removing the 19th century plaster with a very small scalpel. The result is the discovery of these amazing frescoes with a big Savoy family tree on the wall above the fireplace. And on both sides of the family tree, there is a default architecture, which is defined by these beautiful and large Corinthian columns, and above which we see a band of coat of arms that we are under study, we are currently studying. While below, between one column and another, we found that the views of the cities of Savoy as they were in 1618. Something to notice is the space is so enlarged. The room looks much bigger than before due to the illusionistic effect of the portico architecture open to the surrounding landscape. So we have 3 layers of representation: the portico architecture, the cities, and the landscape in the distance.
Well, thank you, Francesca. That's so very interesting, and it's happening as we speak these very days. So now we're not very sure about what will actually handle all this, but our idea is to show this room in a sort of a theatrical way, right? So we would like to show both. We would like to show the frescoes and we would like to show the painting. So we thought that maybe the best idea would be sometimes to show the empty room so we can see the frescoes, and some other times we can cover them up with some curtains and hang the paintings so we can show the room as it has been for a very long time. But the one thing that we know is that these paintings need some restoration, and we're talking about 97 paintings. Most of them are quite damaged, so they need to be restored. We hope to find among maybe today's participants some art lover interested in participating and helping us with this project. So thank you very much, Francesca. We now move on to our third castle, still in the northern part of Italy. There was a question in the chat asking where these castles are. Manta and Masino are in the Piedmont region, so in the area of Turin, northwest, and Castello di Avio is in Trentino, northeast of Italy. So we're still in the north. So let's move on to Castello della Manta. We are closer to Turin this time. It's about 60 kilometers in the area of Saluzzo. It was donated by Elisabetta de Regge Provana in 1985. The castle was built in the 13th century as a military outpost once again, and underwent a major renovation in the 15th century. It was transformed into a family home. It is really a small treasure situated off the beaten tracks of mass tourism, but it has a lot to offer in terms of history, of art, and style. The intimate castle church, the cellars, the old but recently restored kitchen, and the elegant frescoed rooms are all open to visitors who can enjoy special visits and food events throughout the year. Let's see a short video about this property. So here we go, Sara. Can you lead us in the discovery of Manto's most fascinating frescoes, the ones in the Baronia Hall, which are among the most breathtaking examples of late Gothic painting?
Definitely. Yes, this is for sure the most important room in the 15th century castle, and it was used for state functions. As you said, Alessandra, the hall hosts one of the most important surviving example of secular medieval frescoes. The cycle was produced around the year 1420. The frescoes were painted by an anonymous painter who is known as the Master of La Manta. The subject is fascinating. It's the Fountain of Youth on one side, and then there's the series of 9 heroes and heroines. The Fountain of Youth is on the south wall. So there's a group of old men, including and also a few commoners, and that indicates that the equality of humanity in the eyes of time. They make their way towards the miraculous fountain, and by bathing themselves in its waters, men and women get their youth back, actually. Then, after that, they move away from the fountain, abandoning themselves to the pleasures of love. In the fresco, in one picture, we have a knight who tries to convince a woman to go with him into the woods with no success, actually. And he says, you need to come into these woods to consummate our love. And she replies, if someone were to find us, we would be dishonored. The frankness of these figures, including erotic scenes, as we saw, is an especially lively example of the realism, which is very typical of the period.
And what about the other one, the heroes and heroines? What's the story of those frescoes?
Yes, the most interesting part is that some portraits are hidden within the series. And in particular here, you see Valeriano of Saluzzo, who commissioned the decoration, actually, and he's portrayed as Ettore in order to enhance his strategic position within the family. So the series was a way of celebrating the family patrons, comparing them to ancient models.
And we had an important restorer here as well, just like in Torba, right? Francesca?
Yes, frescoes here were restored by Pinin Brambilla, the well-known Italian restorer who saved also Leonardo's Last Supper in Milan. It was the first restoration in this castle, and actually the first action taken by FAI after the donation. It was a really delicate work because there was a lot of dust coming also from the fireplace, and it was a very, very important restoration. As you can see in this picture, you can see the starting of the proof of restoration and the difference between the before and after the work, the great work of Pini Brambilla.
Exactly. Wow, great discoveries. So as we said, we have been doing some major restoration work in this castle from a structural standpoint, but of course, we don't have the time to go into the details today, but I would like to ask Francesca to tell us about a restoration in particular. There was a structural at the beginning, but then uncovered an amazing fresco, which we discovered a little bit by chance. We won't go too much into details, but I would like you, Francesca, to show us some picture and tell us about the tree hall.
Okay, Alessandra. We had to do before some structural work in a room near the Baronian Hall. And at first we found a small piece of a tree while doing some essays to study the stratification. Only a small piece of a tree. This fresco was covered by many, many hands of paint during the time. And this you can see the orange color in the photo. Step by step, we found another piece of a tree. And then this was the most important discovery that decided to do the complete restoration. We found the top of the tree in the attic, above the ceiling, among electric cables and other many installations. The restoration was really exciting because allowed us to put together all the parts of the tree which were previously separated by walls and a ceiling. Moreover, we discovered other 6 beautiful trees on the other walls of the hall, belonging to the same period of the Baronian Hall. This is now one of the most poetic part of the castle. When you are in this room, you feel like you are in a small wood.
Yes, indeed. Well, thank you very much, Francesca. Thank you.
Thank you to you.
Now, as promised, we have a special guest. I'd like to call in on video Chiara De Regge, a well-known New York-based interior designer and a board member of Friends of FAI in the US, the organization which support FAI's work. Hello, Chiara, and welcome.
Hi, I'm very happy to have this time to see everyone and chat. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Thank you for joining. So you are the granddaughter of the donor of Castello della Manta, Elisabetta De Regge Provana. And your family is among the very few families that who, after donating the property, has been able to enjoy living in one part of it. You don't live there all year round, but you visit. I know you visit many times, and you have wonderful memories, right, of the time you spent as a child in the castle. Do you have particular ones that you would like to share with us?
I would say that the most vivid, wonderful memories are always in Manta, from childhood through adulthood. I think one memory in particular that I think of right now is actually when I was quite young, and my grandparents had made the decision to do this donation. And in the summers, I would spend the entire summer from Memorial Day to Labor Day with my nonna in Manta. And so I had the opportunity to watch the restoration room by room as they cleaned the frescoes and restored the frescoes and lovingly worked on every room. And it inspired me to be interested in art history, in architecture, in interior and design. It was really like personally an extraordinary moment in my childhood. And my grandmother was really touched by the love that the restorers put into Manta. And you can see her here with my grandfather on the steps and the front steps of the castle on her wedding day.
On her wedding day. And tell us about your grandmother. You have some adjectives that you'd like to, that would describe her.
Sure.
Three.
She was an adventurous woman, very, very adventurous, and very, very kind, and very passionate and wise, and full of integrity. And those are all very important things for her in life, and the people she chose to surround herself with. She was always very curious and engaged, and she enjoyed entertaining. And to this day, we continue to have guests and friends come and stay with us. And she asked a million questions and had wonderful stories to tell. That's actually her as a little girl. She was also a bit naughty and mischievous. And so I laugh because you can definitely see that in this photo with her mother, Maud, who was actually American. And she grew up as I did, only she got to spend even more time in Manta. And she too would tell me of her memories in Manta from childhood through adulthood, and how it informed who she was as a person as she navigated the world as a young woman, as an adventurer and explorer, and then when she was married and living and to my grandfather, who was a diplomat, where they traveled everywhere. They always came back to Manta to unwind and enjoy that time.
It is a very special place. No wonder. So you often do you come often to Manta, and when you do, how do you find the work of FAI, and how do you feel? How does it feel to have all these visitors coming to enjoy this place?
I'm so incredibly proud, quite frankly. First of all, every time we come, there's been a new addition and a new restoration or a new discovery. This photo here actually is of my mom, because we go every summer, and my parents are there, although not right now because of COVID, but typically they're there about 6 months of the year. And when my grandparents were there, and now with my parents too, that it's always filled with dogs. And for me, every year that we go back from childhood to now, there's been something incredibly thoughtful that FAI has restored or discovered, and it's always really moving.
Well, thank you for sharing these memories with us. Is this your child? Is this your child on the stairways?
That's my daughter, Phoenix. And actually, one memory that I love about that suit of that coat of arms, the knight's suit there, is my grandfather, when I was around Phoenix's age, he put little lights behind the eyes, and he would leave it open, and he would terrify me, but also make me laugh, because when I would run up the stairs, that lights would go on, and he would pretend there was a ghost in there. But it's so sweet, because I used to play there for hours, and Phoenix, especially at that age, loves those stairs.
Well, thank you, Chiara, for sharing these memories with us, and thank you for being such an enthusiastic and inspiring board member in the US and supporting our work. So continue to do that.
If I might add one thing, I have to say to the viewers, I think this interest is, actually, as I'm watching the other castles in this virtual tour, I think it's very clear, and I can say firsthand, the value in the donations, what people get back. There's nothing more gratifying than sending your money someplace and then seeing the results. And year by year, with all the FAI properties, because I enjoy visiting them when I'm in Italy, you can see that the results are constant, and it's a constant evolution.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Chiara. And thanks to all our speakers today. In the chat, you will find some links to that you can use to go on our website and participate, donate, become members. You will see here also some QR codes, the one Giacomo was talking about at the beginning. Do participate, do become members. FAI cares for Italian heritage all over Italy, treasures of our history and our common past. And we want to have you participate in a common mission. We really believe that we owe it to our children and our grandchildren to see Italy as we see it today. So help us with a donation. Any amount helps for our restoration projects, for our mission. Well, thank you very much for your time and for staying with us today. Our next and last appointment is on December 15 with Unexpected Treasures. And since they are unexpected, I'm not going to tell you about it today. I would like Sara and Francesca to join in and say goodbye to our guests. It was a
bye.
It was a pleasure to have you all with us and in these tours today. I hope you enjoy them. Thank you very much, and ci vediamo. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.